So then, Ali,
Ji sir.
how
Ji
so?
sir.
How so?
How so? I'm so glad we discussed what to sow.
Have you done much sewing since then?
Sorry,
Have you done much sewing since then?
I'm always sowing, man. I'm a very
Bottoms,
so kind of guy.
oh, you're a so kind of guy. Yeah,
I'm a
I will.
so
Yeah,
kind of guy.
I
Yeah,
figured.
make of that what you will. Um, but yeah, no, how to sow, and I
Yeah,
think uh, it's something that I don't know whether other people do this, but I find myself sometimes taking my eye off the ball.
okay.
It's great to know what you're sowing, what you want to go about, what the prize is, what the goal is.
Hmm.
But then, how easy is it to get distracted? You see what I mean? It's not
Yeah,
enough, and hence the reason for the show. It's not enough to know what you want to achieve. You've really got to know how to go about it.
yeah. So how? Okay, we discussed a number of topics last week. Well, not a number of topics, a number of things that people would tend to think about when it comes to sewing for the future, whether that be family related, whether that be business related, whether that be financial investments. We touched on a little bit of that. How have you in life come to sew anything? It could be anything, personal or business. How have you made the decision of what to sew, and how have you gone about sewing those things apart from the buttons on your shirt?
I've never done that, by the way. I should, didn't it? I
Well,
think as for what to sow has always been pretty, I don't know, pretty basic. Is that the right word? So, in terms of financial gain or career or income, family, these things, I guess you could call it bread and butter because it's pretty much the norm, isn't it? I think everybody's trying to do that somewhat. Now, the way that I went about it for a long time, and I'm talking from early teenage years, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think I was in full time employment before I was a
Okay.
teenager. Actually, yeah. From the age of 11, I've held down a full time job.
Mm-hmm.
And at that
From the
age,
age
you kind
of
of,
11. Whoa, 1 second, 1 second. From the age of 11, you've held down a full-time job.
a full time job working 6 nights a week.
What were you doing at the age of 11? Was that even legal?
The thing is, well, I was well over 6 foot, and I don't know if
At the
I
age
didn't
of
have a beard
11?
at the time, but I
You
had a
made it
decent,
work out.
alhamdulillah, I had a decent build and everything. So I kind of got away for a slightly older child, you know.
Okay.
But
Okay.
at that time, we lived in a different world. It wasn't as strict as it is now. I think nowadays I think you have to be 13 to do a paper round. You
Yeah.
see what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas then I was working nights. I was
Mhm.
working. I think it was 11 o'clock on weekdays and maybe 12:30 or something on weekends, Friday and Saturday,
Wow.
making pizzas and yeah.
I need
But
to
I
know
mean,
more, please.
look, it was a different world, and I guess I was a lot more. Uh, Although I was mature for my age, I was quite immature in the sense that I knew how to go about what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So
How do you know what you want at the age of 11?
I don't know if you do, but my goal then was quite simple. I wanted financial sort of stability for my family.
Right.
My dad was very working class.
Mm.
He would be working in a takeaway, and he'd have a reasonable sized family to provide for, and it wasn't easy. I
Mm.
mean, the household here was, there were seven of us, so five siblings and my mom and dad, which in itself is a struggle. But then you've got the added weight. I won't say weight, but the added sort of responsibility of those back home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Did
I
you
picked up
inherit
for
some of
whatever
those?
reason. I picked up on this
Did you
from a
inherit some
very
of
early
those?
age.
Did you
Sorry,
inherit some of those? Did you inherit some of those responsibilities?
I would say so. I think we all do, don't we? I think naturally we inherit them, but it comes to a point where a lot of people, maybe not so much from our generation, but in the years to follow, sort of rejected them. Is that a thing? People have woke up and said, "Why should I send money back home? Like, who are you to me? Why don't you go to work? Why don't
I think some people back home have surpassed us over here. This is probably one of the reasons as well, and kind of overtaken what we may have had here as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, our parents didn't really see that coming, whether they just didn't want to. But I used to see things like we'd be helping towards somebody build a house or pay for a wedding or pay for whatever it was, and it was like a decent affair. It was kind of lavish and kind of nice. But when it came to us, we lived a lot simpler than that.
Right. Yeah. Did you notice? I don't know about you. I noticed this. And every time when I went back home to like Pakistan, I would notice the people over there, including the youngsters. Like here, we'd like be a big family and we'd share our bedrooms and all sorts of stuff. Right? We'd have hand-me-downs, clothes, and everything.
Yeah.
But the lifestyle in Pakistan is completely different. I went in 1999 once. I mean, I've been loads of times, but I will never forget this one particular experience. I went in 1999, and I remember there's one particular family who we used to share stuff with, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And then whenever we were there, we would never let them pay for stuff, and we would try and pay for it ourselves or share stuff from here or send some gifts and stuff like that. But when I went to their house, the young lad, he had his own bedroom. He had his own TV in his bedroom. He had his own music stuff in there. And there it's the done thing. You get tailor-made clothes, right? And that's like here it's a big luxury to have tailor-made clothes. And you think their lifestyle, and when you go to the inner cities, you notice the people in the inner cities have actually progressed furthermore than the migrant communities who moved in here into the West, because here they tried to kind of hold on to the culture which they brought with them, not realizing that those back home had actually moved on.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
And I think it was important, for us or our parents or our children to kind of realize, okay, I will help the helpless. I'll do my bit, but we need to not go above and beyond. When you saw that kid's bedroom,
you're trying to be careful with your words now.
Nah, you know what? It is what it is. But look, I'm not saying whether it is or isn't in your case, but it's happened so many times where someone's gone over from here, met someone their age, say their first cousin or whoever, and this guy has fresh laundered clothes, crisp cotton suit every single day.
Yeah,
he's got a brand new motorbike outside. Polishes it. And he shoots off to wherever he goes. The coffee shop or the snooker club, whatever.
Yeah,
and you look around his room and you think, this dude is living better than I am. Yeah. Which that's not the problem. The problem isn't that. The problem is your parents are paying for him to live like, or you're paying for him to live like that. Yeah. So a lot of people can probably relate to this. Is that, hang on, my dad is paying for him to ride around on a brand new motorbike and wear these nice clothes and not have to work and everything.
Yeah.
And I have to share my room with 3 siblings and wear their hand-me-downs. Do you know what I mean? And there's no such thing as an electronic device in my room, apart from the light bulb, which I don't know if...
It still counts.
It counts, but this is where we need to know the difference, isn't it?
Oh,
and I think our parents were sowing seeds back home to the point where just the whole balance and everything was just lost. And that's why there was quite a large disconnect between working class fathers and their immediate families. So they became almost estranged to their own wife and kids, and bits of like resentment and everything else crept in. And that's where I say it's so important to have your eyes on the goal.
Do you think by living that kind of a life, inevitably sows a certain type of a seed in your children or the children of that family on how to progress in life or how to view life.
Yeah, definitely. And look, if we don't know what the goal is, say you want to help someone, yeah, and you don't know what the goal is or what the
Well,
what
the
the
goal
destination
for
is.
the goal for a lot of people could be things like iPhones and iPads, and Rafi has just mentioned that.
Oh, it's you know what?
The
It's not
helpless,
even.
the
Yeah, it's.
helpless these days are demanding the latest iPhones and iPads, whilst we are looking hard just to pay rent and bills. Isn't that true?
I remember going to Pakistan, and there was this dude that I'd never seen before, and I didn't know who he was.
Mm.
Obviously, he knew who I was because I'd just
You're
come off
like,
the bloody
that's why.
Valeti, and
You've got the red passport. Everyone knows the red passport.
and it's not the sense that he had. I don't want to say the audacity, but it's not the fact that he asked for a phone. It's and I still remember it's probably 20 years ago. I remember the make and model. Like he didn't just say, "Oh, yeah, I have to go to work," or sometimes I'm far away from the village and my parents are elderly and I've got no way of communicating.
Yeah.
He goes, "Yeah, Samsung D500 Jirana."
I remember that.
D500 PG.
D500,
I was like,
yeah.
and I just pulled out my own phone and I said, "Bruv, like,
yeah,
is he that?"
Yeah, initially it used to be the Nokia's 6230. But if you knew your phone, they wouldn't say the 6230 Bart 3, they'll say Bart 3i. It has to be the I at the end of it. It has to be the Bart 3i model. So Ali, in terms of moving on as you've grown older in life and you've kind of experienced different things, how do you decide because we kind of touched on this last week in what to sow, but how to sow what you want to sow? What are the determining factors?
It's knowing what you want to sow, but then how far you want to sow it. So it's knowing you want to help someone, but up until what point?
Okay. Yeah? Forget someone. Forget everybody else. Let's talk about you. Or anybody who's listening in or watching from the audience. If you were to answer the question, how does one sow what they feel they need to sow? For me, I tell you, it's not an easy question to answer because there are lots of things which come into play. First of all, nowadays, before I was different. Nowadays, what I would always look at is with what I feel that I may want to sow, does it align with my values? Yeah. Now, if they don't align with my values, because you have to have some kinds of values, otherwise you don't have any limitations and you don't have any anything to prevent you from overstepping your own rules or mark. Yeah. So the first thing is values. And I think even if we look at this from a business perspective, when we, as business owners, when we think about what to sow in business, businesses have values. You have to think about your PR, you have to think about your marketing, you have to think about your whole value system, what your mission statement is and all those kinds of things. And even as solopreneurs or entrepreneurs, we have to think about our personal branding. What is the image we're giving out, and how are we being portrayed, or how do we portray ourselves in front of the wider audience? More importantly, is this something that I feel is going to sit well within my value system? Because obviously, if it's something which goes completely against my value system, it's not going to be worth pursuing. Yeah. It might not be going against somebody else's value system, but for my own value system, if it goes against that, then I'm not going to pursue it. Okay. That's the first thing. That's the prerequisite for me. If I was to think about how to sow anything, that'll be the first thing that I will have to tick as a checkbox. The second thing that I would probably have to think about is my inner dialogue. What am I saying to myself? How do I feel about going forwards and doing certain things? How do I talk to myself about whatever it is that I'm thinking about sowing? Yeah. Now, if it's not a healthy, positive, roaring, motivated kind of a dialogue that I'm having, maybe my mind's not there for it yet. It might just be the timing's not right. But if that inner dialogue tells me that, you know what, this is something that's definitely worth pursuing, chances are I'm going to have to think about what the end is going to be. The end is going to have to be in my mind for me to work out the steps to be taken towards achieving that thing. And then think about, well, what do I have to help me achieve it? Now, it could be financial. It could be a support network. It could be professional assistance. It could be, legal assistance or financial assistance. It could be all sorts of different things. So when we're thinking about how do you sow anything, the first thing in my mind that would come is, number one, does it fit in with my values? Number two, what is the inner dialogue that I'm having about this thing before I pursue it? Number three, what's the end? What's the destination? Work backwards from there, and then think about the steps that I have to take to achieve that thing, and think about, not just, in terms of tangible things or whether it be equipment or finances, but people. What kind of people do I need around me? Do you know what I mean? And then that goes, I suppose it fits in with personal and business goals. It fits in with personal and business things that we want to achieve. If we don't do it that way, there's a danger that either you're not going to have the motivation to go to see it through, because you mentioned that. For how long am I going to want to sow something? Now, if it's relating to yourself, then I guess it's going to be a long-term thing. But if it's not related to yourself, for somebody else, then you might want to put a time limit.
Yeah. The time limit and distance limit, isn't it? Okay, look, the one of the most common ones that probably most of us share is going to be financial. Yeah. So is in order to, whether it's for a car, whether it's a house, whether it's just to have enough money put away, or just, sometimes it's just to be earning a certain amount. Sometimes people think, look, when I earn 30K, 40K, 50K, let's say I get to, I don't know, whatever number you have, right? 50K a year. That's my goal, is to earn 50K a year.
Okay.
Now, do you think people know what to do when they get to that? Do you think it's quite clear? Like, we've obviously thought out what we want. We want a new car. But then when you get the car, then what? Is it, do you know what I mean? Do you sit down? Do you reassess your life? Do you look at your goals and do you set new goals? Because that's as important as anything, isn't it?
No.
It's not game over.
Churchill says no. People don't know what to do after that. So the question, I think most people, those people who have the vision, those people who have the vision, the desire, the competency, the aptitude, the attitude, all those things to achieve something and see it through, will probably know what to do after that with it. If they've planned it properly, and if it's blossomed or reaped from something they've sown. Yeah. But those people who haven't, and it's been like, we talked about this accidental millionaire thing. If you haven't gone through that process, then chances are you're not going to know what to do. If you've inherited it, then there's going to be something different. But when you've had to work yourself for it, then it's different.
See, this is what I didn't have. Obviously, as an 11-year-old or a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old, I knew that I wanted to sort of, I wanted us to be easy. Like, I wanted the sort of the weight and the strain taken off my dad's shoulders. But other than just turn up to work every day and bring home money, I didn't know what else or how else to do it. So I got stuck in this cycle of just grafting for I can't remember how many years, I remember at one point I had to use somebody else's ID so that I could work night shift at this factory, because you had to be 18 to work on night, something to do with, insurance or whatever it was, public liability. And it was like 4 on. Yeah.
You're gonna make me cry, man.
No, no.
You're gonna make me cry, man.
There's good times. You know what? I look back and I think, you know what? It's kind of shaped who I am today and how I am, because I knew the cutoff points for everything. Like, I've never gone overboard. I've never exaggerated. I've never, bought anything meaninglessly. And I'll teach my kids the same, is that you can be comfortable, but I'm not going to sort of give you anything that's going to take away either your appreciation of what it is or make you miserable the moment that, let's say, for example, you're unable to afford it, or it's taken away from you, or you have to go without. And my kids now understand that. It used to be the point where, why can't we just get it? Why can't we just have it? It's just this much. It's just that much.
May says it has made you the really nice guy you are today.
I don't know about nice. I actually put up a post earlier saying that I'm not a nice guy.
Who said that? Oh yeah, the post. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Post, yeah.
So
okay.
I think it's
in terms of, because obviously we keep going back to how it was a progressive kind of journey for you. That this is feeling like an interview. This is quite fascinating. I've never done this with you before. So you've moved on, let's just say now, from the age of 11, and you've made a fair bit of money to help support your family. Now you have families of your own. What's changed in your thoughts, if anything, in terms of sewing and how to sew? Because look, before it was still for somebody else. Have you ever, or has the thought changed from supporting others to kind of self-care and loving yourself a little bit more, buying yourself things a bit more, and changing where that what you're sewing and where it goes?
Yeah, I think so. I think I've changed quite a lot along the way. But is that are you getting an echo?
Yeah, I'm getting. Oh, you sound a bit odd. I don't know, something with the mic.
I've been told that before.
That's really weird.
I don't know why we're having this technical glitch. Let's have a quick look. Any better?
No. Okay, I'll do something. No, I don't know. We're not gonna.
What did you think was gonna happen?
Okay, I don't know. But yeah, just continue. I think if we continue.
Yeah, we can work on that later. So I forgot what the question was now. It's kind of
yeah. How have things changed? Like before, you were 11 years old. You started working. The seeds you sowed, or you had sown, were for a particular purpose, and that was to help your father, to help the families back home. Now there's a bit of a disconnect, as you mentioned, between those priorities. Now the priorities lie more closer to home for your own families.
Yeah.
Have you now found yourself that in the journey to helping your own families, you feel that there is more of a need to help yourself?
It's not so much help yourself, but I think a lot of these people needed help in a different way. And it goes, you can sort of refer to the example of is it a fisherman, or if you give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day.
If you teach him how to fish, you
teach him how to fish. And I think I adopted that sort of strategy when it comes to a lot of things very early. And I asked a lot of questions, even of people, that were sort of needing help or whatever. And I just approached it very differently. And the same with my kids, and the same with myself. I'll say, look, you only ask for help when maybe that last 10-20% push. If you're, I know you're an avid gym goer and you like to sort of pump iron, but when you're lifting weights, the gain is yours, right?
Nowadays, yeah.
The gain is yours. So you're going to push yourself to the limit, and sometimes just beyond, Then for somebody to help you
spot
you makes sense, right? Now, if somebody was to come along and lift that weight for you, would you benefit?
Of course not.
And that's the difference. And I think that's probably a mistake that a lot of people were making before. So you've got to strategize it all the way through to the end. The end game is everything. And if you've
So
not got that in mind,
yeah, so in your strategy for the end game and strategizing it well, where has that strategy, where within that strategy do you fall for yourself? The things you do for yourself.
for
That's the
myself,
question. Look, for me, I'll be honest. For me, there's a reason why on aeroplanes, when you get given the emergency uh, training at the beginning, they tell you to put the
your
life
own
vest
mask on
on
first.
yourself and the mask on yourself before you try and help somebody else. If you can't help yourself first,
Mm.
you're not good to anybody else. And this is why I was asking the question, because I think in anything in life, when we're looking to sow whatever we decide to sow, we have to understand, do we have the right equipment, or are we equipped well enough ourselves to deal with or see through into fruition what we're about to sow?
Mm.
Yeah. Far too many times you see people. This is why, I guess, one of the reasons why so many businesses fail. They say 2/3 of businesses fail within the first 6 months or something, or 12 months or whatever it is. Yeah. Not enough thought goes into the other stuff. They think they've got a great product, which they may have, but they've not thought about, okay, how is this going to be marketed properly? How am I going to get this to be properly represented? How am I going to sell it? Yeah. They think everything's going to happen like magic.
Mm.
Not me. Well, magic. So it doesn't always work out like that. So the question then arises, what were the reasons for the failure? Lack of motivation, lack of finances, lack of a good strategy, lack of long-term thinking, or a goal or a vision of how this is going to work, lack of a support network, lack of a PR, lack of, all these things accumulating into some of the main reasons why a lot of businesses fail. I mean, lack of research from the beginning is also a big reason, and this is why I say when we're looking to sow anything in life, the important thing is to first of all understand who you are. And I always say this, don't I? I always say this: if you haven't by now discovered who you are yourself, you're not going to know what your likes and dislikes are. You're not going to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. You're not going to know what motivates you or demotivates you. And all those things are really, really important to make anything in life. To sow anything, you need to understand yourself first. Is this something that's really my cup of tea or not? Because if it's not, then what the hell are you doing trying to do it in the first place? This is why, as I mentioned, values right at the beginning, that if whatever I'm about to embark upon or sow, is it going to fit in with my values? If it's not, then it's not going to motivate me for very long. It's not going to feel good here. Might not get a good night's sleep. So all these things are really going to be of high importance, aren't they?
Let's take the example of the product. Yeah. Now, it would be fascinating to know what percentage of people just come to market with what they believe is a good product, and probably is, and nothing else. Because the chances of succeeding with a good product alone now in 2020, 2021 is surprisingly slim.
Yeah. I mean, you could get lucky if you've got something really unique or it's new on the trend. Like, these new pop socket things that kids have got. Have you come across them?
Yeah, sorry, what?
They're like rubberized things, right? Which pop. They're like circular, and they've made them into all sorts of different shapes. Yeah. And they're quite new. And kids are paying a lot of money just for these rubberized, colorful toys. Don't know if anyone who's listening in or watching this live can relate to this. I don't know any kids who have done this, but every kid wants these pop things, pop sockets, I think they're called.
I remember fidget spinners. That's about it.
So it's like another fidget spinner kind of a toy, and then it's basically rubberized, and you just pop it. It just turns in the other way around.
Now their target market is kids, like you mentioned, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you think to a kid, or to the vast majority of kids, it's enough just to have a good product? Like, as a child, do you want something because it's good, or do you want it because you've seen it, it's been marketed, your friends got it, the guy that you watch on TV's got it?
It's the latter, of course. Yeah.
So
that's gonna be
so
a better purchase in their eyes.
yeah. So how do you go about that then? I mean, that's, I suppose it's so easy to take your eyes off the prize if you just sit on your laurels and think I've got a great product here, it's going to sell itself, because it doesn't really, does it?
Well, you could always jump on the bandwagon where people are already or they've created this craze of buying, for example, these pop sockets, and then you realize, okay,
I have
everyone's
to look up this pop socket, bro. You keep saying it, and I'm like, I want one now. What is it?
just Google it afterwards. Google it afterwards.
I gotta look
Um,
it up.
yeah, but then if it's a new trend and you've recognized that it's a trend, and you've got a bit of extra cash to throw into a different product, then temporarily you might want to just import them from somewhere who make them really cheap, like China, and then just put them on eBay because they're going to sell. Everyone wants them. You see, it could be a temporary thing though. It's not going to be a long-term strategy. Yeah, you can long-term look at what's trending in terms of purchases, like places like Amazon or eBay. But then, this is where we have to think about sowing the seed. There's a seed that's already been sown, which you've recognized as a profitable one, and then you've just come to, water it. So you're not getting your own seeds, but there's already a seed there, and you're just watering it. So Mohammed Wakas Khan is saying, yeah, my girl loves collecting it. She collects it because she watches too much YouTube. Her mates got some, they swap them, they bid for them. She makes a bit of change for herself too. Wow. Okay. You know what? I can appreciate that. I get that.
I like that last element, because I was just going to ask that really. Is that, do we want to teach our kids to be consumers?
Consumers or
You know what I mean?
suppliers? Yeah, that's a very good question, because you're absolutely right. My eldest, he's 13 now, and he has been a hustler at school. He's been a proper hustler at school. He's always kind of exchanged items or got people to buy items from him, which he got on sale. And that's exactly coming back to what you mentioned earlier. Saida says, interesting. I watched a Marcy short documentary just before the show, and the take-home message there was, whatever you were raised with becomes your truth. Yeah. So working full-time as an 11-year-old here and now is virtually unheard of, but in deprived nations, it is probably the norm even today. So your reality dictates what you can sow, and then your life journey shapes what you're able to sow. And this is a dynamic program that is ever changing. Excellent. Very interesting comment there. Very interesting comment. You can't disagree with that. I think
you can't. And do you ever, I hear my kids say it all the time, yeah, because, bro, I'm horrible when I want to be. Because
when you want to be?
Well, I always want to. I don't want to be, but
you always want to be.
It ends up that way. Is that, look, there's some things that are so simple. Walking to the shop to get milk. Yeah. In our day, we wouldn't even give it a second thought. You wouldn't get to say things like, oh, but it's raining, but I'll have to put my shoes on, but it's so far away. So now, I'll say to them, look, it's just down the road. It can be a mile and a half, but to me, it's just down the road. My kids don't even want to hear what I did when I was their age. They have this sort of preset in them that, yeah, but that was a different time. Things were different then.
Why do you think they say that? Have you given them that impression?
Do you know what it is? It's not me that sets the norm for the society nowadays. Like I could say to my son that, look, how old is he? Okay, 15, yeah? I could say to him, look, you're 15 now. In almost every sense of the word, you're a man. So when it comes to, if somebody knocks on the door...
Let me just... Go on, carry on. No,
go on. So,
I was just going to say, you mentioned you're 15 in every sense of the word. You're a man. That's a very interesting comment to make, actually, because a lot of people will treat their 15-year-olds differently. And secondly, the comment to make, you're a man, is also interesting. Interestingly, for our viewers, if you didn't know, which you probably didn't, our next topic is going to be about masculinity. Is it misunderstood term? So make sure you tune into that one, which is going to be the next episode. I just thought I'd plug that in. Continue, please.
Yeah, why not? So, look, I can say to him that, you don't need somebody to tell you, oh, you're 18 now, you're 21 now you're classed as an adult, now this and now that. If I treated my 15-year-old like a boy or a child, he'll love it, he'll lap it up, he'll adjust to it, yeah? Does that benefit him in any way? I don't think it does. I don't think it's, all these preset stations. Oh, you're 16, now you can do this. Now you're 18, now you can do this.
Yeah.
Overnight, you're 21, now you can do this.
Yeah.
There's got to be some kind of gradual, there's got to be a bit of momentum. It's got to build. You've got to water it day in, day out.
Yeah.
And the better that we understand this is that, look, this is the goal. This is what we're heading towards. You can see that now. I don't want you to say that, oh, but for example, my daughter wanted to study she wanted to get a driver's license, right?
Driving license.
Yeah. And I said, look, the aim is to get a driver's license. Yeah. So whether you're 17 or not doesn't mean she wasn't 17 for a couple of months. And I was like, you can still study the highway code. There's nothing stopping you. You know what's up ahead.
Nowadays, it was the highway code. Nowadays, the theory test is it kind of almost, I feel like it dismisses the highway code because that's given more of a priority. Yeah. But I hear you. I see what you're saying. You know that there's a goal. You know that this is inevitable. This is something you're going to be embarking upon, a journey. So why wait until you are officially of that age before you even start attempting to make sense of it? Why not start now?
Look, no one's gonna, you get to a certain age where you're gonna start making your own choices and choosing your own paths and everything.
Question for you, Ali. Sorry to cut you short there. Question I would have then is, if you've had that thought process, what have you done, or what strategies would you apply to help your daughter understand, or sow that seed in her mind that she should start studying for it before she turns 17?
Well, the thing, I'm a very simple guy. So I wouldn't say to her that she has to or doesn't have to drive, but I would suggest that having a driver's license in this day and age is beneficial. Yeah?
Sure.
So
does she want to help? Does she want to help?
Say that again, sorry.
Does she want to drive?
Oh, yeah. Which kid doesn't?
Okay. So you're going to say your advice. Yeah.
So my initial advice is, look, it's good to have a driver's license. The test is only going to get harder over the years. What you decide to do after that, keep a car, don't keep a car, is up to you.
Yeah.
Get yourself a license. Yeah. And then make of it what you will. So that's the aim.
So here's my observation on that approach, because you gave her advice. What I find is, and some of the viewers who are connected with me on Facebook or LinkedIn for a while now, they will know that I sometimes train around twice a year before the pandemic was introduced. It's not almost as it was introduced.
Unveiled to the world.
Before the pandemic came about, I train senior council leaders on influencing, negotiation, and sales skills. Yeah, and this is why I asked the question, what was your strategy? And your response was, obviously, you gave her advice, as a father would. I often find giving advice isn't the most potent way of planting a seed, because you're telling. The best way, the more potent way of planting any kind of seed is asking the right question for them to answer, in which the answer lies, almost like a coach would.
Okay.
But the answer is the answer that you want to hear, but they don't know that yet. It has to be thought of in the right way. This is something we do in NLP as well, and in the sales training that I deliver. But the best way to influence, sow a seed, motivate, and all those things in anybody is not to tell them or dictate to them. Because once you do that, the decision is not going to be theirs, it's going to be yours. You told them to do something. For them not to commit to it, it's easy because it wasn't their decision in the first place. But if you ask them the right question and you ask them to do things or ask them about, for example, let's take the example of the driving lessons, right? Or your daughter wanting to drive. So the question that probably would have been asked is, do you even want to drive? If the answer is yes, why do you want to drive? Then whatever the reasons she gives you, I hope she's not listening, by the way. you might be applying this to her later. Then the third question after that, follow-up question might be, okay, we know you want to drive. You've confirmed that these are the reasons that you want to drive. When can you drive? Oh, until I'm 17. Okay. Are there any restrictions why you can't prepare for it before then? Obviously, no. She might say, yes, I can't drive. Okay. Is there anything else you can do? Probably learn something. Okay. Is there any reason why you shouldn't be learning something? Not, is there any reason why you should be, but is there any reason why you shouldn't be? Yeah. So the answer is, okay, no, there isn't any reason why I shouldn't be learning straight away. Okay. So what do you think you should do? Given all that.
Yeah.
Then the decision is theirs.
Yeah, I would say my approach is quite very similar to that. I'm just a little bit more matter-of-facty about it. But yeah, I think that's the best way to do it, because that way...
Sometimes these finer nuances play a big role.
They've made that decision, haven't they? And they've decided what they're going to go ahead with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty smart way of putting it.
I do that every time.
Got to watch out for you NLP guys, man. Next time you ask
me, take on a role of any kind.
Do you want to pay for dinner? Like, do you want to buy me a kebab?
Want to pay for dinner? Why wouldn't you want to drive? Why?
Exactly, yeah.
Oh goodness. So yeah, these are things that we could obviously learn. Now, again, this comes back to the original question, doesn't it? How do you sow? So this is one example of how you can sow, or people can sow an idea or a goal or something in people's minds. Obviously, it shouldn't be used in a negative sense or to manipulate people, but in a negative way. Obviously, there's also positive manipulation from the fields of psychology and all sorts. So in a positive way, this can be used to have that dialogue with ourselves as well. And again, I say this, it comes back to self-coaching, or whether we're doing it with our, family, kids, business, associates, or whoever it might be, supplier, whoever it might be. Asking the right question is always going to be important. And coming to that answer for yourself is going to be even more important. Now, if that answer is not your own answer, it's been adopted, then you're less likely to have the motivation to continue through it than if you had come to that conclusion yourself, because then you're owning it. You're owning that decision. Mohammed Wakas says, I'd like to keep my kids as kids until they have to grow up. They see us as adults, so surely they know what is required from them. I work hard as many hours. I'm in transport and have a car business. I have them around me and around my cars. So hopefully they have an idea what work is. We load cars, we fix cars, we talk cars. We know I work hard and I play as hard. At the same time, they are allowed to chill and let me work. I think I've just been off topic, or I'm starting to rant.
No, it's not a rant. I think it's a respectable approach. If it works for you, it works for you. It's great. Now,
the bottom line is,
I don't know what age these kids are. Should kids be allowed to be kids? Yeah, definitely. Why shouldn't they?
Of course.
But is there an age where they start to show a little bit of responsibility? Look, a child knowing that you go to work and work hard to provide for them so that they can chill and have it easy is not enough to then motivate that child or prepare that child so that they're ready to do the same. If anybody said that was the case, I would would disagree with them. I don't think that's the way it works. I think if you can't teach a child the value of anything, forget about the price, but the value of anything, you're doing them a disservice.
Yeah, well, Mohammed Wakas has mentioned his children are 13, 11, 10, and 4. Those are still very young children, and they're very impressionable. I think most children of that age, or most of your kids, are going to be at an age where they want to have some kind of affirmation or consistent, continued confirmation that they're doing well. The problem we have within our culture, particularly, is a lot of parents don't have that, complimentary behavior. They're quick to step up and tell the child off when they've done something wrong. But they're rarely found to be complimenting them or tell them, wow, you've done amazing, celebrating their success, especially in front of other people. Yeah. So behind their backs, they might even say, oh, my kid, this, my kid, that, they've done this, they've done that. In front of their child, they won't show that for some reason. They feel there's something preventing them from, I think that's possibly learned behavior as well, is because of the way they were brought up. Our elders are more like chittar leka judone, you know what I mean? And they would have this
well done note. It works and it doesn't work. It does need to be done, but then
it only works, Ali, if there's a balance.
Yeah.
There has to be a balance.
Let me give you an example there.
And so saying, well done.
I've got a 6-year-old, and he is the most generous, giving soul that I know.
He's a real entertainer.
He's very mature for his age. Like he's advanced from his years. Some of the things he comes out with, but this kid can afford anything and everything because he's got some money in a tub. Last time he wanted something he'd seen on YouTube, one of these RR8 or something, some Star Trek. What's the robot called?
I have no idea.
Whatever it is, yeah.
I don't watch Star Trek.
Star Trek fan. No, it's not Star Trek. Star Wars. I don't know. Okay. And I said, look, we can't have that because they've got laminate floors. We've got carpets. They won't be able to walk around on here. He goes, yeah, no, that's fine. I'll buy the laminate floor. I've got money.
Oh, brilliant.
That's not
the best. Got a solution. He's got a solution to the problem.
He's got a solution to the point where we live in an apartment, yeah?
Yeah.
And, his mom was saying, look, it'd be nice to get a little place with a garden and stuff. And he was like, yeah, no problem with me. I'll pay for a bigger house.
Wow. Okay.
And that's when it occurred to me that, okay, it's good that he saves up and he's got money, but look, he'll always offer to give someone something or give to charity or do whatever. Sure, I think he might have called you once when you were doing one of your...
when I was on TV doing a fundraiser for Muslims in Need.
And it was either something that you said or something that you showed. And he said, Baba, why have they got no food? And I said, they're poor and this. He goes, okay, what's Uncle saying? I said, look, they're asking, to help these people. So he phoned you and he goes, look, I want to give all of my money to all of these people. And
it's amazing.
And I started thinking, I said, look, this kid gets rewarded, he gets money, whatever, and he keeps offering to pay for things. He's 6 years old. I'm not going to take his money to pay for pizza night.
I would.
But then what happened is he wasn't learning the value of anything because the money was never going down. It was just going up and up.
Yeah.
Here's this kid being generous and saying, here, you can have money, I'll buy you this, I'll buy you that. But then that's only because he's got an infinite amount, or what he sees as an infinite amount. It's like the whole bank card scenario. Like kids will say, just get it out from that hole in the wall.
Yeah, just get it out just put the plastic in and get it out. Yeah.
And balance is very important when it comes to stuff like that.
So so we've understood the seed here that's been sown is that he's got money because he doesn't understand why, but he understands that it buys certain things. Yeah. The question I would have for him or from you is that because you just mentioned it, he doesn't have the value for the money. How are you gonna overcome that challenge in him?
This kid has to go broke. There's no other way. Like,
have you ever tried Have you ever tried giving him incentives to earn his keep?
He
Not
has
that's
incentives,
yeah.
and he does earn, and he does really well. The trick that I was missing is that his pocket was never getting lighter, so he wasn't learning. Now, this kid does at times go broke when he offers to pay for things, or he wants something, or he spends lavishly, or he gives. It's great. I'm not saying it's not, but then he has to realize that, damn, I got no money left. You know?
There's one thing having money and knowing that you can spend money and buy things. Question is, how much importance does he give to money over other things in his development?
Virtually
It's just
zero.
six at the moment, man. He's nothing
Yeah.
to worry about.
To be
It's like,
fair, alhamdulillah, he's really good like that. Virtually zero. He'll give it all away in a heartbeat, you know?
oh, mashallah.
But it was important for him to understand. Maybe he's an extreme example. He's too young, you know, but even then, it's important for him to understand that this comes and goes.
But yeah, I mean, he's too young. But you see that all the time. You know, I've seen adults who haven't really realized the importance or the value of what they have, and it doesn't have to just be money. It could be anything. You know, the fact that they've got a roof over their heads. You get some
Yeah.
really spoiled brats. Muhammad Waqas was talking about his kids. Yeah, of course, let them be kids. They have to be kids. At the same time, we have to understand that not every child has the same development journey or speed. You know, they all develop in their own way, and different children have to be treated differently because they are unique and they should be loved. The question is, I mean, the problem I see is a lot of the times I don't see enough love being balanced with the reprimanding and the criticism, especially as the child is growing older. And I've become very conscious of that because when the child is really young, at that age 6 and below, or even up to 10 or 11, when you get to like 11, 12 and start getting towards the teenage years, I can see parents being a bit more hesitant in showing the love, especially fathers. And they want to do the boyish things or the laddish things. But what they don't understand is there has to be a balance in all of it. And whether you show love or whether you show you being a strict father. I'm talking about being a father more than a mother right now, but I'm sure
you'd make a great
examples.
mother as well.
I'm sure I would. I have a maternal side to me as well. But yeah, it's important to have that balance. I've seen kids being underdeveloped, mentally unstable. I've seen kids being shy, not confident at all because in every step of their developing years, they were being criticized to be the best. And a lot of that was due to the competition between their cousins. The parents wanted that child to be better than their cousins. We were better than them kind of syndrome, keeping up with the Joneses theory. So a lot of the times, those kids who have somewhat lost out on a playful, joyful, loving childhood, it's mainly down to the fact that they're trying to live a life which belongs to their parents. They're living their parents' lives rather than their own life.
See, I think that's a very fine tweak. Let me give you an example, yeah? So we had a presentation day at my kid's school a couple of weeks back. And they had to do Quran recitation. Yeah. So everyone in the class obviously got up on stage and recited something. And they were marked on pronunciation and grammar and all the rest of it, the tajweed and the qiraat and everything.
Yeah.
Now, there was a first, second, and third prize, yeah?
Right.
Which is great. But then every runner-up also got a medal.
Participation prize, yeah? Okay.
Now, in Ayan's case, he didn't get first, second, or third, but he got this medal, which was obviously put on the family WhatsApp group, and the calls and messages and just flooded in of congratulations. Well done, mashallah, everything. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I had to be the person to sit him down and say, you didn't sort of win. You weren't the best. And the tweak in that is that I said, look, it's not that you weren't better than your cousin or your friend or your colleague, whatever. It's that you weren't as good as what you could have been. So this medal's great. It's good. You did good. But next year, you could be better.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So it's being the best that you can be.
Yeah, so the seed being planting there is your competition isn't anybody else but yourself.
No, it's yourself. And let's say my kid came first.
Oh,
he came first.
Wow. No, you see example. Let's say. Okay. I thought you said last year. I thought you said last year he came first.
Let's say he comes first.
Yeah.
But I know he hasn't performed or he hasn't taken it seriously. Yeah. And next year, he's like, I'm way ahead of these guys. Do you know what I mean? This is easy for me.
Sit on his laurels. Yeah.
That doesn't impress me because I know that he could be better. He's not pushing himself. He's not making himself his own competition.
Okay.
So, appreciation and all of that is great, but it's that fine tweak, isn't it?
Mm.
And I think that's really important.
So we're coming towards the end of the show now. As a final takeaway, Ali, in your opinion, as a summary, what would you say are the things to look out for when we're sowing anything? How to sow? How do you sow?
I think my final summary is eyes on the prize.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you mentioned it earlier that, focus on what you want to get to and then work backwards or visualize it backwards.
Mm.
And I think any day that you get up and even though you're working towards your goal, but you're doing it blindly or in autopilot, if you're not visualizing what your goal is, what path you're taking, how you're getting there, then it's a wasted day for you.
Planning,
absolutely.
Cool. I concur. I think going back to the points that I mentioned right at the beginning, for me, if I was to sow anything, first of all, I would need to understand why am I sowing something and, what the purpose behind that is. Number two, does it fit in with my values? If it fits in with my values, what's my inner dialogue? What are the conversations I'm having with my own mind about whatever it is I'm looking to sow? Like you said, the end in mind. Think about the end in mind and work backwards, and then do the planning according to, my support network and, getting specialist advice. And overall, whatever it is, try and make it for the betterment of people rather than to the detriment of people. And that will also reflect on my own characters. Like I always say, isn't it, Ali? If what we believe in is not reflected in our character, then what we believe in is not important.
Absolutely, I agree.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our show. So thank you for sticking around and all these wonderful comments. Very, very enlightening indeed. So don't forget, next episode is going to be about masculinity. And this is a very interesting topic. We were talking about this very briefly, and we'll have a special guest, somebody who has very, very interesting insights on this particular topic. I'm expecting some fireworks between this guest and Ali, actually, because I know they have some contrasting views. So this is going to be a bit of a in the boxing ring, right? So on that note, ladies and gents, keep tuned, subscribe to our channels, give it a like, give it a share, put a comment down somewhere, and we'll see you on the next one.